The massive alien vessel loomed at the edge of Earth's solar system, its dark hull absorbing light like a cosmic predator waiting in the shadows. Captain Jinwoo stood motionless on the command bridge of the KSS Dauntless, his hands clasped behind his back as he studied the ship that dwarfed his own vessel. The bridge crew worked in tense silence, broken only by the soft beeping of instruments and quiet murmurs as they monitored their stations. Jinwoo could feel their anxiety, but his face remained calm. After 15 years of commanding spacecraft, he had learned that a captain's demeanor shaped the crew's response to any situation. "Sir, they're hailing us again," reported Communications Officer Li Bin, her fingers hovering over the control panel. Jinwoo nodded. "Put them through." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a creature that made several crew members gasp. The alien stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body covered in natural armor plates that shifted with its movements. Retractable claws extended and retracted from its fingers as it spoke, a gesture that Jinwoo suspected was meant to intimidate. "I am Ambassador Ron of the Vorax Dominion," the creature announced, its voice a deep rumble that seemed to vibrate through the bridge. "We have come to inform you of your new status within our empire." Jinwoo's science officer, Haenul, moved to stand beside him. Her data pad displayed rapid analysis of the alien's biology. Thick armor, redundant organs, enhanced muscle density. Everything about their physiology suggested an apex predator species. "Ambassador Ron," Jinwoo replied evenly. "I am Captain Jinwoo of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other species, but I should inform you that Earth is not part of any empire." The Vorax made a sound that might have been laughter, but reminded Jinwoo more of grinding stones. "You misunderstand, small one. We merely extend this courtesy of introduction, as protocol dictates. Your status is not negotiable." Haenul leaned closer to Jinwoo, speaking softly. "Captain, their ship's energy readings are off the scale. The weapons systems alone could vaporize a small moon." Jinwoo gave a slight nod but maintained eye contact with the alien. "Perhaps, Ambassador, you could explain why you believe Earth would submit to your authority." "Believe." Ron's claws extended fully, gleaming under the bridge lights. "We do not require belief. For 50,000 years, the Vorax have ruled this sector of space. We are the apex predators of the galaxy. Your species will serve its purpose in our ecosystem, as all others do." The threat was clear, but Jinwoo noticed something in the alien's posture. Arrogance, yes, but also a complete lack of concern. The Vorax didn't see humans as a threat. They didn't even see them as worthy opponents. "I see," Jinwoo replied carefully. "And what purpose would that be?" "Your species shows some basic tool use and rudimentary spaceflight capabilities," Ron said dismissively. "You will make adequate laborers in our lower colonies. Those who prove themselves might even earn positions serving in Vorax households." Haenul's datapad beeped softly. She touched Jinwoo's arm, showing him the completed analysis. The Vorax ship's defenses were incredibly advanced, but they were also surprisingly rigid in their design. Their technology showed no signs of adaptation or innovation, just steady refinement of the same basic principles. "Ambassador," Jinwoo said, "I suggest you review your data on humanity more carefully before making such assumptions." Ron's expression shifted to what might have been amusement. "We have studied your kind thoroughly. Soft, weak bodies, no natural weapons, limited sensory capabilities. You survive through artificial means, creating tools to compensate for your evolutionary failures." Jinwoo allowed himself a small smile. "And that doesn't concern you?" "Why would it?" Ron's claws retracted as he gestured dismissively. "Tools are crutches for the weak. True power lies in natural superiority." "I see," Jinwoo said again. He glanced at Haenul, who nodded slightly. The Vorax's scans hadn't penetrated the Dauntless's quantum shielding. They had no idea of the ship's true capabilities. "You have one planetary rotation to prepare your leaders for formal submission," Ron declared. We will then begin the integration process. Resist, and we will demonstrate why we have remained unchallenged for 50 millennia. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in silence. After a moment, Haynul spoke quietly. They really don't understand us at all, do they? Jinwoo shook his head. No, they don't. And that will be their downfall. He turned to his communications officer. Li Bin, contact Earth Defense Command. Tell them First Contact Protocol 7 is in effect. Protocol 7. Sir, Haynul asked, though her expression showed she already knew the answer. Yes, Jinwoo confirmed. We're dealing with hostile forces that have severely underestimated humanity. Begin full combat preparations, but maintain passive posture. Let them keep believing we're harmless. As his crew sprang into action, Jinwoo looked back at the alien vessel. The Vorax had evolved to be perfect predators, but they had stopped evolving. Humanity, born weak and vulnerable, had never stopped adapting, never stopped improving. They had turned their very weakness into their greatest strength. Send a message to all Earth defense stations, Jinwoo ordered. The Vorax think they're apex predators who found easy prey. Let's show them what happens when you corner an animal that spent its entire existence learning how to overcome stronger opponents. The Dauntless's quantum engines hummed to life, and deep within the ship, weapon systems far more advanced than anything the Vorax could imagine waited to be unveiled. The hunters were about to learn they had made a terrible mistake in their assessment of humanity. Research Director Kitaz's claws clicked against the datapad as he scrolled through the latest reports. The observation chamber aboard the Vorax research vessel Dominance was designed for beings of his size, making the human data displays seem absurdly small in his massive hands. Show me the atmospheric modification data again, he ordered, his voice rumbling through the chamber. Sun Mai, his research subordinate, quickly brought up the relevant screens. As you can see, Director, the humans have altered their planet's composition significantly, Sun Mai explained, her own armor plates shifting nervously. They've managed to reverse severe atmospheric damage in just a few centuries. Kaita studied the numbers with growing irritation. Something about the data troubled him, though he couldn't quite identify what. They're physically inferior in every way, he muttered. Soft-skinned, fragile bones, limited strength, poor sensory capabilities. Yes, Director, but their planetary modifications are troubling. Sun Mai hesitated before continuing. They've transformed hostile environments into habitable ones. Their Mars colony shouldn't be possible, yet they've created a functioning atmosphere in less than a century. Kaita dismissed her concerns with a wave of his clawed hand. Primitive tools compensating for evolutionary weakness. Nothing more. He brought up the biological comparison charts. Look at these pathetic specimens. No natural armor, no enhanced healing, no biological weapons of any kind. They require artificial protection just to survive in space. Sun Mi moved to another display, her movements careful and measured. That's true, Director, but I've been analyzing their technological progression. The speed of their advancement is unprecedented. They went from primitive atmospheric flight to space travel in less than a century. A sign of desperation, Kita declared. They rush to develop artificial means of survival because they have no natural advantages. He pulled up footage from Earth's surface. Look at their cities. They cluster together in artificial hives, surrounding themselves with machines. Neither Vorax noticed the small maintenance drone cleaning the chamber's air filtration system. Its movements were perfect, identical to thousands of other maintenance units throughout the ship. The quantum transmitter hidden within its shell continued sending every word back to Earth's Defense Command. Director, Sun Mai persisted, I've been studying their combat capabilities. Their weapons are nothing compared to our natural superiority. Kitai interrupted. We evolved to be perfect hunters. Our armor can withstand their primitive projectiles. Our strength can crush their strongest materials. He flexed his claws for emphasis. This is why we have ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. Sun Mi's anxiety was visible in the way her armor plates rippled. But sir, their adaptive capability is remarkable. They've developed countermeasures for every natural threat on their world. They've even modified their own biology through medical science. Kita growled in frustration. You're letting their toys intimidate you. Sunme, remember your training. Technology is a crutch for the weak. True power comes from natural evolution. He brought up the invasion protocols. The standard conquest pattern will work perfectly. Their defenses will crumble before our might. The maintenance drone moved to another section, its sensors recording every detail of the Vorax ship's internal systems. Its quantum AI noted the arrogance in Kita's voice, adding it to the psychological profile being compiled on Earth. Look at their weapons, Kita continued. Missiles, energy beams, projectile weapons, all artificial means of trying to match our natural capabilities. Their ships are enclosed environments because they can't survive in space. Everything about them screams of weakness. Sun Mei began organizing another data set. Sir, I've been analyzing their information networks. The complexity of their digital systems is beyond anything we've encountered. They process data in ways that still can't match our natural neural networks. Kita cut her off again. Stop looking for threats where none exist. They are prey species, nothing more. Their tools make them useful for labor, but they pose no threat to the Dominion. The drone completed its cleaning cycle and moved toward the chamber's exit. Its quantum transmission had captured every word, every dismissal of humanity's capabilities, every assumption of Vorax superiority. Prepare the standard conquest assessment, Kite ordered. We'll begin with their orbital defenses, then methodically disable their planetary infrastructure. Once they realize the futility of resistance, they'll accept their place in our empire. Yes, Director, Sun Mai replied, though her concern remained evident. Should we perhaps study their adaptive capabilities further before? Enough. Kita's claws extended fully. Your obsession with their primitive technology is becoming tiresome. They are weak, they are inferior, and they will submit. That is the natural order. As the Vorax continued their assessment, the drone slipped through the ship's ventilation system, its quantum AI already analyzing weaknesses in the Vorax design philosophy. Their rigid adherence to biological superiority had left blind spots in their security, gaps that humanity's AIs had already begun to exploit. Back on Earth, defense commanders received the drone's transmission with growing confidence. The Vorax's dismissal of human capabilities would be their undoing. Their belief in natural superiority had left them unable to recognize or adapt to new threats. The maintenance drone continued its seemingly routine tasks, gathering data that would soon help humanity show these self-proclaimed apex predators exactly why evolution had given humans intelligence rather than claws. Commander Jiho watched from the Mars Defense Command Center as the Vorax fleet approached. Red dust swirled outside the reinforced windows of the colony dome, matching the color of warning lights flashing across his control panels. Enemy fleet entering optimal firing range, reported his tactical officer, Yang. 5 capital ships, 20 support vessels. They're deploying in standard Predator pack formation. Jiho allowed himself a small smile. The Vorax were so predictable, so convinced of their superiority that they didn't even try to hide their intentions. Status of our defense systems. Quantum shields at full power. Combat systems online and tracking. All defensive positions report ready. Yang's fingers flew across his console. They're charging weapons. The first Vorax barrage lit up the Martian sky like artificial dawn. Their energy weapons, powerful enough to crack planets, slammed into the quantum-locked shields protecting the colony. The Vorax expected the shields to shatter instantly. Instead, the energy dispersed harmlessly across the barrier's surface. Impossible. The Vorax fleet commander's voice boomed across all frequencies. Your defenses should have crumbled at our first strike. Return fire, Jiho ordered calmly. Show them what prey species can do. The colony's defense platforms came alive. Unlike the Vorax's brute force weapons, human technology was subtle, adaptive, and devastating. Quantum-phased beams slipped through gaps in Vorax shields that the aliens didn't even know existed. Nanoswarm missiles ignored their armor entirely, targeting the biological weakness beneath. A Vorax support ship erupted in flames, its crew never understanding how their perfect natural armor had failed them. Another followed quickly, its systems overwhelmed by human AI that adapted faster than the Vorax could react. "They're adjusting their attack pattern," Yang He reported. "But our combat AI is already predicting their moves. They're too instinctive, too bound by their natural hunting patterns." Jai Ho nodded. "They evolved to be perfect predators, but they stopped evolving. We never had that luxury." He watched as another Vorax ship tried to withdraw, its engines failing under precision strikes. Launched the drone swarms. Thousands of combat drones emerged from hidden silos beneath the Martian surface. Each one carried an AI more adaptive than anything the Vorax had ever encountered. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but the drones moved in patterns that defied natural prediction, their movements guided by quantum algorithms that evolved with each passing second. "Sir, we're detecting energy buildup in their capital ships," Yang He warned. "They're preparing to use their planet-killer weapons." As expected, Jai Ho replied, "Activate the gravity wells." Hidden generators came online, creating localized distortions in spacetime. The Vorax weapons, designed to operate under natural physics, backfired catastrophically. 2 more ships vanished in balls of their own fire. "This is impossible." The Vorax commander's voice had lost its arrogant edge, replaced by something close to fear. "You're prey. Nothing more than prey." "We were never prey," Jai Ho responded, opening a channel to the Vorax fleet. "We were survivors. Every predator on Earth taught us something about overcoming superior forces. You evolved to be perfect predators, but we evolved to adapt, to overcome, to survive." The drone swarms reached the remaining Vorax ships, bypassing their defensive screens through quantum tunneling. Within moments, the mighty vessels began losing power as specialized Manites invaded their systems. "Their crews are abandoning ship," Yang He reported, almost surprised by how quickly the mighty Vorax had broken. "They're retreating in escape pods." Jai Ho watched as the last Vorax capital ship died. Its systems shut down by technology its crew had dismissed as primitive. "Send recovery vessels for the survivors, and transmit all battle data back to Earth Command. The Vorax need to understand what they've started." As rescue operations began, Jai Ho reflected on the irony. The Vorax had attacked Mars first because they thought a colony would be weak, an easy target to demonstrate their power. Instead, they had given humanity the perfect opportunity to demonstrate just how fatal their assumption of superiority had been. "Sir," Yang He called out, "we're getting reports from Earth. The Vorax are retreating across the entire system. Their command structure is in chaos. They don't understand what just happened," Jai Ho explained. "Their entire society is built on the belief that natural biological superiority is everything. They can't comprehend being defeated by creatures they saw as naturally inferior." The Martian winds continued to blow red dust across the colony dome, but now that dust settled on the wreckage of Vorax ships, monuments to the danger of underestimating humanity's capacity for adaptation and innovation. "Send word to all human colonies," Jai Ho ordered. "The predators have become the prey, and they never saw it coming." The holographic display filled the center of the United Earth Defense Council chamber, showing the wreckage of Vorax ships scattered across 3 star systems. Admiral Yu Jin's uniform bore the fresh scars of recent battles, lending weight to every word she spoke. "As you can see," she gestured to the rotating display, "the Vorax fleet's movements follow consistent patterns. Their biological superiority is their greatest weakness. They never developed the technologies we considered essential for survival. They never had to." The council members leaned forward in their seats, watching as simulation data showed Vorax attack formations dissolving under precisely calculated human counterstrikes. Tactical Officer Minho stepped forward, his hands moving through the holographic display to highlight key battle points. "They're predictable," Minho explained. "Evolved to be perfect predators, but never learn to adapt. Each attack follows their natural hunting instincts. Once our AI systems identified these patterns, defeating them became almost routine." An older council member raised his hand. "But their ships still outgun ours by a factor of 10. Their armor is still superior to anything we can produce." Yujin smiled. "That would matter if we fought the way they expect us to fight." She brought up footage from the Battle of Proxima Centauri. "Watch this engagement." The Vorax deployed in their standard pack hunting formation, expecting us to meet them head-on. The hologram showed human ships seemingly retreating in disorder. The Vorax fleet, unable to resist their predatory instincts, gave chase. They never saw the quantum mines hidden in the asteroid field until it was too late. "We don't try to match their strength," Yujin continued. "We use it against them. Their enhanced reflexes make them incredibly fast, but also predictable. Their natural armor makes them overconfident, so they never developed effective countermeasures against our more subtle weapons." Minho highlighted another battle sequence. "Look at their response to our drone swarms. They try to swat them like insects, never realizing each drone carries enough nanites to disable their entire neural network. They think in terms of physical combat, while we think in terms of systems and weaknesses." The council chamber fell silent as they watched another Vorax fleet dissolve under human attacks they never saw coming. Ships that could withstand direct energy weapon hits fell to microscopic machines that slipped through their armor's molecular gaps. "What about their ground forces?" another council member asked. "They're still physically superior to our troops in every way." Yujin nodded to Minho, who brought up footage from a ground engagement on Mars. "This is what happens when Vorax troops encounter our powered armored units. Watch their reaction time." The hologram showed Vorax warriors, nearly 3 meters tall and covered in natural armor, charging at human positions. Their speed and strength were impressive, but the humans in powered armor moved with artificial precision, their movements guided by combat AI that predicted and countered every Vorax attack. "They fight like apex predators," Minho explained. "Direct, aggressive, relying on superior strength and speed. But our troops fight like humans always have, with tools, with strategy, with technology that multiplies our capabilities beyond what nature provided." Yujin took over again, showing the current strategic situation. "We've pushed them back from 3-star systems already. Their command structure is falling apart because they can't adapt to fighting an enemy that doesn't follow natural combat patterns." The display shifted to show Vorax civilian worlds. Their society is based entirely on biological superiority. Now that we've proven that superiority can be overcome, their entire civilization is starting to question its fundamental beliefs. "And this is just the beginning," Minho added. "Every engagement provides more data for our combat AI to analyze. We're learning their patterns faster than they can learn to break them." A council member raised a concerned hand. "What's to stop them from adopting our technologies, from learning to fight the way we do?" Yujin's expression turned grimly satisfied. "Their pride. Their entire species has evolved to believe in natural strength above all else. Asking them to rely on technology instead of their biological weapons would be like asking humans to give up tool use entirely. They can't adapt because they don't want to adapt." The holographic display showed the next phase of human offensive operations. Clean, precise strikes at Vorax weak points, calculated to cause maximum disruption with minimum casualties. "We're not fighting to destroy them," Yujin concluded. "We're fighting to show them that being an apex predator means nothing against a species that evolved to overcome its limitations rather than rely on them." The council chamber erupted in discussion as the implications became clear. The Vorax, with all their natural superiority, had never faced an enemy that didn't try to match their strength directly. They had no defense against a species that had spent its entire existence learning how to defeat stronger opponents through intelligence and adaptation. As the council debated the next phase of operations, Yujin and Minho shared a knowing look. The tide hadn't just turned. It had become a tsunami that would sweep away 50,000 years of Vorax dominance, all because they never understood that true strength lies not in natural weapons, but in the ability to overcome natural limitations. Research Station Commander Tai Young peered through the quantum microscope, watching as billions of nanites disassembled Vorax armor at the molecular level. The laboratory aboard the research station, Echo 7, hummed with activity as scientists worked to perfect what might become humanity's most effective weapon against their would-be conquerors. "Look at this structure," he called to his colleague Su Jin, who moved away from her own workstation to join him. "Their armor isn't just biological. It's a living extension of their nervous system. And that's exactly why they're vulnerable," Tai Young said, his eyes bright with discovery. "Biological perfection makes for predictable weaknesses. Everything biological has patterns, has rules it must follow." The laboratory's main screen displayed real-time data as nanites continued their work. What had started as a seemingly impenetrable piece of Vorax armor was slowly being transformed into its base components. The nanites worked like microscopic surgeons, identifying and exploiting the precise chemical bonds that gave the armor its strength. "Send another batch through the ventilation test chamber," Tai Young ordered. A young researcher activated the system, and they watched as clouds of nearly invisible machines filled the sealed room containing Vorax armor samples. "It's beautiful, in a way," Su Jin observed. "They evolved this armor over millions of years, perfecting it against every natural threat. But they never imagined facing an enemy that could manipulate matter at the molecular level." Tai Young nodded, moving to check the latest test results. "They're so proud of their biological superiority that they never considered it could be used against them. Every strength they evolved has become a vulnerability we can exploit." Alerts flashed across their screens as the nanites completed their work. Where there had been nearly indestructible Vorax armor, there was now only a fine dust of base minerals. The entire process had taken less than 5 minutes. "Prepare the combat version for field testing," Tai Young instructed his team. "I want these nanites programmed to target only active Vorax armor signatures. We're not here to destroy them, just to show them they're not invulnerable anymore." Su Jin pulled up the genetic analysis they'd completed earlier. Their entire evolution focused on becoming the perfect predator. Every adaptation, every improvement, was about becoming stronger, faster, more deadly. They never developed any defenses against microscopic threats. Because they never needed to, Tai Young finished her thought. Their natural immune system was strong enough to fight off any bacterial or viral attack. But it can't fight something that isn't alive, something that works on a scale their bodies don't recognize as a threat. The laboratory's quantum computers processed the final adjustments to the nanite programming. These microscopic machines weren't just weapons. They were the product of humanity's greatest advantage, the ability to understand and manipulate the natural world rather than simply trying to overpower it. "Launch the field test," Tai Young ordered. In the station's largest testing chamber, a captured Vorax warrior stood in full battle stance, its armor gleaming under the bright lights. The subject had been promised freedom in exchange for participating in the test, though it clearly expected its natural defenses to prove superior. The nanites were released through the chamber's ventilation system. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Vorax warrior stood proudly, its armor intact. Then, almost too fast to follow, patches of its supposedly impenetrable protection began to dull and crumble. "Impossible!" the warrior roared, watching in horror as its natural armor dissolved into dust. "What sorcery is this?" "Not sorcery," Tai Young replied through the chamber's communication system. "Just science. Your perfect evolution made you predictable. Every cell in your armor follows the same patterns, uses the same molecular bonds. Once we understood those patterns, defeating them was inevitable." Within minutes, the mighty Vorax warrior stood stripped of its natural protection, vulnerable in a way its species had never experienced. The fear in its eyes told Tai Young everything he needed to know. The psychological impact of this weapon, would be as devastating as its physical effects. "Begin mass production," he ordered, turning to his team. "Load the nanites into our drone swarms. The next time the Vorax attack one of our colonies, they'll learn what it means to face an enemy that can turn their greatest strength into their greatest weakness." As the research station hummed with increased activity, Tai Yun watched the final test results scroll across his screen. The hunters had become the hunted, and they never saw it coming. Their biological perfection, evolved over millions of years, was being undone by microscopic machines programmed by the very prey they had dismissed as weak. "Prepare the report for Earth Defense Command," he told Sujin. "The Vorax are about to learn that true superiority isn't about having the strongest armor. It's about being able to adapt when that armor fails." The nanites continued their work in the test chamber, reducing millions of years of evolutionary advantage to dust, while humanity prepared to show the galaxy's apex predators why intelligence and innovation would always triumph over mere biological strength. General Hyunwoo stood at the command center of the ESS Retribution, watching as holographic displays showed the human fleet moving through Vorax space. The massive alien empire that had once seemed invincible was collapsing system by system, not through overwhelming force, but through precise, calculated strikes that left their defenses in chaos. "The Vorax heavy fleet is moving to intercept, exactly as predicted," reported tactician Yunji, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. The young officer's combat algorithms had revolutionized human military strategy, turning the Vorax's instinctive responses into a weapon against them. "How long until they realize it's a trap?" Hyunwoo asked, watching the enemy fleet's movement patterns. "They won't," Yunji replied confidently. "Their tactical responses are hardwired into their biology. They're physically incapable of ignoring what they perceive as weak prey trying to escape." The holographic display showed the Vorax fleet, still impressive despite their recent losses, charging after what appeared to be a retreating human task force. Their ships moved in perfect predator formation, exactly as they had for 50,000 years of unopposed dominance. "Launch the quantum mines," Hyunwoo ordered. Across the battlefield, invisible weapons activated, creating localized disruptions in spacetime. The mighty Vorax ships found themselves trapped in bubbles of distorted physics, their superior weapons and armor useless against forces that ignored physical laws entirely. "Their command and control network is fragmenting," Yunji reported, her algorithms predicting and exploiting each Vorax response. "They're trying to regroup using their standard pack hunting protocols." Hyunwoo nodded grimly. "Deploy the nanite swarms." Clouds of microscopic machines poured from hidden human vessels, targeting the Vorax ship's ventilation systems. Within minutes, alarms began blaring across the enemy fleet as their crew's natural armor began dissolving, leaving them vulnerable for the first time in their evolutionary history. "Their flagship is attempting to coordinate a counterattack," Yunji announced, but her tone carried no concern. "Releasing combat drones now." Thousands of eye-controlled drones swarmed through space, their movements too chaotic and unpredictable for Vorax targeting systems to track. The aliens' superior reflexes worked against them, as they instinctively reacted to threats that were already gone, leaving themselves open to attacks from unexpected angles. "Send the demand for surrender," Hyunwoo ordered. "Let's see if they finally learned." The Vorax commander's response came quickly, his voice still carrying traces of arrogance despite his desperate situation. "We do not surrender to prey species. We are the apex predators of the galaxy." "You were," Hyunwoo corrected calmly. "But you made the mistake of believing that biological superiority was enough. You never understood that true strength lies in adaptation, in innovation, in finding ways to overcome natural limitations." The battle continued to unfold exactly as Yunji's algorithms had predicted. The Vorax, unable to adapt their tactics, fell into one carefully prepared trap after another. Their mighty ships, designed to withstand any natural force, proved helpless against weapons that ignored the very laws of physics they relied upon. Their last stronghold is attempting to coordinate a final stand, Yunji reported, her screen showing the massive Vorax fortress world preparing for battle. They're gathering everything they have left. They still don't understand, Hyunwoo mused. They think this is about strength against strength. He turned to his communications officer. Activate the quantum entanglement network. Across human space, thousands of AI systems linked together, combining their processing power into a single vast intelligence. The Vorax had never imagined such coordination was possible, had never needed to develop defenses against it. The fortress's defenses are adapting, Yunji warned, but her voice carried a note of triumph. But our AI is adapting faster. Every move they make teaches us more about their patterns. The final battle for the Vorax Empire played out like a complex dance, with human forces always one step ahead. Their biological superiority, evolved over millions of years, proved useless against an enemy that could think in quantum calculations and move with artificial precision. Their command center is exposed, Yunji announced. Nanite swarms are penetrating their life support systems. Within the mighty fortress, Vorax warriors watched in horror as their natural armor crumbled to dust, leaving them as vulnerable as the prey species they had so long despised. Their weapons, designed for raw power, couldn't target the microscopic machines that were undoing millions of years of evolution. The Vorax Empire is finished, Hyunwoo declared, watching as the last stronghold's defenses collapsed. Not because we were stronger, but because we never stopped learning, never stopped adapting. As surrender signals began flooding in from across Vorax space, Yunji's algorithms continued their work, predicting and countering every last desperate attempt at resistance. The mighty empire, built on the belief in natural superiority, had fallen to a species that had turned its very weaknesses into strengths. Begin recovery operations, Hyunwoo ordered, and prepare to implement the transition protocols. The Vorax need to learn there's more to survival than being the strongest predator in the galaxy. The stars shone silently on the end of an empire, while humanity prepared to teach its former hunters a lesson about true adaptation. The age of the apex predator was over, replaced by an era where intelligence and innovation would determine survival. Ambassador GA stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, her simple human form a stark contrast to the varied alien species that filled the chamber. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Vorax Empire, and the galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined. The council chamber, built from crystalline materials that caught and reflected starlight, had once been a symbol of Vorax dominance. Now it served as a meeting place for dozens of species, each bringing their own strengths and perspectives to the galactic community. Look around you, Jai-A began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. 5 years ago, this chamber held only Vorax representatives, each competing to prove their superior strength. Today, I see beings of all forms, each contributing their unique abilities to our shared future. Among the council members sat several Vorax, their once proud armor now modified with technological enhancements. They had learned, slowly and painfully, that adaptation was not a sign of weakness, but a path to true strength. We never wanted to be apex predators, Jai-A continued, gesturing to the human delegation. Humanity simply refused to be prey. There's a difference between being the strongest and being the most adaptable. The Vorax never understood that distinction until it was too late. The chamber's displays showed images from across the reformed galaxy. Former Vorax warfare academies had been transformed into centers of innovation, where multiple species worked together to solve problems that strength alone could never address. When we first encountered the Vorax, they saw our technology as a sign of weakness, Jai-A explained. They couldn't understand why a species would rely on artificial enhancements when they could evolve natural weapons. But they never asked themselves why we developed these tools in the first place. A holographic display activated, showing Earth's history, countless predators that had forced humanity to adapt, to innovate, to overcome through intelligence rather than force. Every challenge humanity faced made us stronger, she continued. Not by changing our bodies, but by improving our minds, our tools, our ability to work together and find solutions that no single species could devise alone. The council chamber fell silent as images of the war appeared, not to celebrate victory, but to illustrate the lesson learned. Vorax ships, powerful but predictable, falling to human ingenuity. Their perfect biological weapons proving useless against artificial intelligence and quantum physics. We didn't win because we were stronger, Jia emphasized. We won because we had spent our entire existence learning how to overcome stronger opponents. Every predator on Earth taught us something about survival, about finding ways to turn apparent weakness into unexpected strength. She moved to the center of the chamber, where a piece of Vorax armor was displayed alongside a human environmental suit. Look at these two approaches to survival. One evolved to be perfect, unchanging, relying on natural superiority. The other was built to be improved, modified, adapted to face new challenges. Which one truly represents the future? The younger Vorax council members nodded in understanding. They had grown up in the aftermath of their empire's fall, learning to value innovation over tradition, adaptation over static strength. Today, we face challenges that no single species can overcome alone, Jia declared. Climate changes that affect multiple worlds, spatial anomalies that threaten entire systems. These are problems that cannot be solved by strength or natural weapons. They require cooperation, innovation, and the ability to admit when our old ways of thinking need to change. The chamber's displays showed new projects across the galaxy. Former Vorax warrior breeds working alongside other species, learning to apply their strength in construction rather than destruction. Their natural armor, once used only for war, now protecting them as they help terraform hostile worlds. This is the true meaning of being Apex, Jia concluded, not standing alone at the top, but helping others to rise. Not being unchanging in our strength, but constantly adapting to new challenges. Not dominating through force, but leading through innovation and cooperation. As she finished speaking, the council chamber erupted in approval. Species that had once lived in fear of Vorax hunters now worked alongside their former oppressors, each contributing their unique abilities to a galaxy that valued diversity over dominance. In the years that followed, that message would spread across the stars. The age of the solitary apex predator had ended, replaced by an era where adaptation, cooperation, and innovation determined success. Humanity had shown the galaxy that true strength lay not in being the most powerful, but in being the most capable of change. And in the great archives of Earth, Captain Jin Wu's first contact recordings remained as a reminder. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is not the one with the sharpest claws, but the one that never stops learning how to overcome its limitations. Ambassador Jia stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, her simple human form a stark contrast to the varied alien species that filled the chamber. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Vorax Empire, and the galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined. The council chamber, built from crystalline materials that caught and reflected starlight, had once been a symbol of Vorax dominance. Now it served as a meeting place for dozens of species, each bringing their own strengths and perspectives to the galactic community. Look around you, Jia began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. 5 years ago, this chamber held only Vorax representatives, each competing to prove their superior strength. Today, I see beings of all forms, each contributing their unique abilities to our shared future. Among the council members sat several Vorax, their once proud armor now modified with technological enhancements. They had learned, slowly and painfully, that adaptation was not a sign of weakness, but a path to true strength. We never wanted to be apex predators, Jia continued, gesturing to the human delegation. Humanity simply refused to be prey. There's a difference between being the strongest and being the most adaptable. The Vorax never understood that distinction until it was too late. The chamber's displays showed images from across the reformed galaxy. Former Vorax warfare academies had been transformed into centers of innovation, where multiple species worked together to solve problems that strength alone could never address. When we first encountered the Vorax, they saw our technology as a sign of weakness. Jai explained. They couldn't understand why a species would rely on artificial enhancements when they could evolve natural weapons. But they never asked themselves why we developed these tools in the first place. A holographic display activated, showing Earth's history, countless predators that had forced humanity to adapt, to innovate, to overcome through intelligence rather than force. Every challenge humanity faced made us stronger, she continued, not by changing our bodies, but by improving our minds, our tools, our ability to work together and find solutions that no single species could devise alone. The council chamber fell silent as images of the war appeared, not to celebrate victory, but to illustrate the lesson learned. Vorax ships, powerful but predictable, falling to human ingenuity. Their perfect biological weapons proving useless against artificial intelligence and quantum physics. We didn't win because we were stronger, Jai emphasized. We won because we had spent our entire existence learning how to overcome stronger opponents. Every predator on Earth taught us something about survival, about finding ways to turn apparent weakness into unexpected strength. She moved to the center of the chamber, where a piece of Vorax armor was displayed alongside a human environmental suit. Look at these two approaches to survival. One evolved to be perfect, unchanging, relying on natural superiority. The other was built to be improved, modified, adapted to face new challenges. Which one truly represents the future? The younger Vorax council members nodded in understanding. They had grown up in the aftermath of their empire's fall, learning to value innovation over tradition, adaptation over static strength. Today, we face challenges that no single species can overcome alone, Jai declared. Climate changes that affect multiple worlds, spatial anomalies that threaten entire systems. These are problems that cannot be solved by strength or natural weapons. They require cooperation, innovation, and the ability to admit when our old ways of thinking need to change. The chamber's displays showed new projects across the galaxy. Former Vorax warrior breeds working alongside other species, learning to apply their strength in construction rather than destruction. Their natural armor, once used only for war, now protecting them as they helped terraform hostile worlds. This is the true meaning of being Apex, Jai concluded, not standing alone at the top, but helping others to rise. Not being unchanging in our strength, but constantly adapting to new challenges. Not dominating through force, but leading through innovation and cooperation. As she finished speaking, the council chamber erupted in approval. Species that had once lived in fear of Vorax hunters now worked alongside their former oppressors, each contributing their unique abilities to a galaxy that valued diversity over dominance. In the years that followed, that message would spread across the stars. The age of the solitary apex predator had ended, replaced by an era where adaptation, cooperation, and innovation determined success. Humanity had shown the galaxy that true strength lay not in being the most powerful, but in being the most capable of change. And in the great archives of Earth, Captain Jin Woo's first contact recordings remained as a reminder. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is not the one with the sharpest claws, but the one that never stops learning how to overcome its limitations.